各位观众，大家好，我是于文琪。我们今天很荣幸能访问到美国国务院阿富汗女权和人权特使 Rina Amiri. Special Envoy Amiri, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It was just a year ago on April 14th when President Biden formally announced his plan to withdraw all American troops from Afghanistan. Over the last summer, we witnessed chaos and the shocking speed of Taliban takeover. Your position as the U.S. Special Envoy for Afghan women, girls, and human rights was created in December in the aftermath of the U.S. military withdrawal. Why focusing on women, girls, and human rights? Has this always been a focus of U.S. foreign policy?
Well, thank you for that important question. Why women and human rights? I think the answer is very clear, not just from looking at Afghanistan, but looking globally. If you look at any evidence-based research, you see that women are the linchpin for stability and economic prosperity. And in Afghanistan, certainly the issue of women's rights and girls' rights have been a key element of U.S. policy for the last 2 decades. And after August 15th, the administration assessed that it was even more critical to focus on this issue and established not just my position, but established an office that would support me in these efforts.
But I think what people witnessed and watched on TV, and including yourself, I read some of the articles you read before. People question U.S. foreign policy when it comes to Afghanistan withdrawal. And so do you think your position was created to further monitor the rights conditions on the ground, or what more leverage do we really have right now over the Taliban's treatment of girls?
I think the administration certainly recognized that the situation of Afghan women and girls required much greater support and attention. You know, in the last 2 decades, the U.S. Had a presence on the ground, had a wide range of tools and at its disposal to leverage the situation of women and girls. The situation did change dramatically after August 15th. The U.S. no longer has a presence in the country, and many of our allies no longer have a presence inside the country. So the decision was made to establish not just my position, but also a position within the CARE office to focus on the evacuation and resettlement of women and girls, because both of these, the issue of women and girls on just a broad range of issues, both inside the country and those that had been forced to flee, was seen as a priority in terms of identifying robust means of being able to support them and to leverage their roles and their voices. It's, you know, and why is it important? Women's rights and human rights are absolutely fundamental to stabilizing Afghanistan, to a moderate Afghanistan. Women, in the last 2 decades, we've seen in Afghanistan, and as I noted, throughout the world, where you see that women are the gateway to greater inclusivity, and inclusivity is ultimately what is going to be the key element in stabilizing the country and enabling some level of economic stability and prosperity.
I think we know about the argument. And so, you know, the last 20 years of, you know, stabilizing the country by investing in women and girls and others really is a way for Afghanistan to move towards the future. Now, there's the feeling that the U.S. has abandoned women and girls and Afghanistan. How would you say to those people that the U.S. commitment stays the same?
I would say that the fact that the administration established my office should be encouraging to everyone. The fact that this office is one that there's, you know, and I can tell you very honestly that there is support for our work throughout the administration. Since I've joined, it's been over 3 months now. every part of the U.S. government that I've engaged has stepped forward and asked and actually noted that they want to be involved in supporting our efforts and identifying how they could leverage our work in supporting Afghan women and girls. There is a recognition within the administration, and I would say just throughout the U.S., that the Afghan women and girls throughout history, they have been the most resilient of the population inside the country. They have been at the forefront of fighting for peace. They have been at the forefront of moderation, and they are the essential factor to creating an Afghanistan that is viable and that is sustainable. It's of a normative imperative, but also of a strategic imperative. If we don't support Afghan women and girls, the situation in Afghanistan is going to further deteriorate. There is going to be greater radicalization, greater exclusivity, and a further decline of the country and a move towards instability. The evidence is there, the math is there for anyone who wants to look at this issue in any part of the world. And that's what the administration is looking at. It's made an assessment in terms of what is essential. And what right now, one of the key elements is investing in the population in the country that is going to be key to creating sustainability. And that is women and girls and the rights-based population that have been at the forefront of fighting for peace and stability for over 2 decades.
And how can we do that now that we don't have that kind of presence on the ground? And the Taliban, still not allowing girls to go to school beyond just elementary school. What is our leverage?
The international community has a range of tools at its disposal. It has diplomatic tools, it has economic tools, and we are looking at the full range of what is at our disposal to make clear to the Taliban that rhetoric is not going to be sufficient for them to achieve what they hope for. They want greater normalization. They want greater engagement with the international community. And what we tell them is, for that to happen, you have to address the rights of the Afghan population. You have to address the rights of women and girls, to allow them access to education, to allow that access to education that leads to meaningful capacity to work, and to provide economic viability for Afghanistan. If girls continue to be deprived of education and women continue to be deprived of work, there's going to be greater pockets of conflict, because families will not simply accept that in a country as poor as Afghanistan, that 50% of the population is going to be deprived of the right to engage in bringing food to the table. And there's going to be greater migration outside of the country. This is of strategic relevance and importance to the international community at large.
Just last month, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Kabul. Then he hosted in China a meeting with various neighboring country foreign ministers, including Taliban and Russian foreign ministers. In the post-meeting statement, it stated, quote unquote, the importance of taking necessary continuing steps in Afghanistan on ensuring women's rights and children's education, among others, safeguard the fundamental rights of all Afghans, including ethnic groups, women, and children. Would you advocate for the US to work with China, Russia, and other countries for Afghan women and girls?
I think the Troika format is a really important mechanism for engagement between the US, its regional allies, and the broader international community to come together and to identify strategically how to advance peace and stability in Afghanistan, including women's rights and human rights. And ongoing discussions and these formats are actually very important.
What are your biggest worries for Afghans now? Should we recognize the Taliban?
Recognition is not an on and off switch. There's a pathway towards normalization. and the extent to which there is going to be any movement forward in the direction of greater normalization is contingent on the Taliban meeting the demands of the Afghan population, giving Afghan women and girls their rights, protecting religious minorities, ethnic minorities, creating opportunities for economic livelihoods and viability for women and men, and creating a culture of hope rather than fear, and creating a forward-looking culture rather that is going to move the country backwards and towards greater conflict and war once again.
今天非常感谢特使给我们讲解美国的阿富汗政策。Thank you for being with us today. We wish you the best in advancing the rights of so many in Afghanistan and beyond. Take care.
Thank you.